Finding a face palette for fair skin that doesn't include at least 2 shades that we know we're never going to use is a feat. So when a subscriber of mine, I'll pop their name on the screen here, recommended I try out this cream palette from Made by Mitchell. It's called their Curve Case. It's the shade Lighter Than Light. It has 8 shades and every single shade in this palette is wearable for fair skin. I'm going to be doing swatches showing you how I use all of these shades and how you can make them work for you, and whether or not this palette is actually worth having in your collection, and whether it's like a must-have all-in-one face palette for fair skin. Quickly before we get into the video, I want to say thanks to 2 subscribers who gave me some super thanks over the past few months. Leslie Collier, I hope I'm saying your name correctly, said happy August, thanks for the video. This was on my Natasha Denona mini palette video. Thank you so much, Leslie. You always give me so much support. You're the best. And then we also have one from Melissa QD9DM who said thanks on my RMS Beauty Launches video that I posted a couple days ago. Huge thank you to Melissa and Leslie for the super thanks. If you're not already subscribed, I would love to have you, by the way. On my community post, I always like listening to you in your recommendations. That's how I found out about this product. So be sure to drop any recommendations or products you'd love to see me review, because I'm very active over there and those posts should pop up on your feed as long as you're subscribed. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started and talk about this curve case. Here we have the Made by Mitchell curve case in the shade Lighter Than Light. So it says that this palette has 4 multi-use contour shades to sculpt and define, and 4 blush shades to add a rosy tint to your complexion. It's a super creamy formula that delivers a sun-kissed glow or a healthy flush of color, crafted with every skin tone in mind. Very true. And this is a cruelty-free product. So this is the shade Lighter Than Light that I picked up, and I really haven't seen a face palette for pale skin that really looks like this. It honestly looks like a dream. I was so excited to try this out. They do offer, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colorways of this product. This is the lightest one, which is called Lighter Than Light, and it goes all the way to deeper to deep. So it's really interesting. It's great actually that they are including so many different skin tones with these types of palettes, because really haven't had a product like this before, because I just look at them and I see so many shades that I won't be able to use, but every single shade in here looks like I'm going to be able to use it. So let's go ahead and get swatching. Packaging wise, this is quite simple. It's just a plastic case with curve case on it, and then you have the shades on the back of it, and then it just slides open. These right off the bat, I have dipped into them a little bit. They do have a slight like clean smell to them. It's really nothing too overwhelming. I find that it dissipates on the face, but if you're very specific about fragrance, just do know that these have a slight fragrance to them. So this top row here are the blush shades, and the bottom here are the contour shades. So I'm gonna go ahead and start swatching. So let's start with these blush shades, starting over here with this beautiful purple called Electric Petal. Since these are wax-based, they really do benefit from being warmed up. So for the swatches, I'm gonna make sure that I'm warming up the product. So here's that purple blush shade. And then let me go ahead and swatch the rest of these blushes to show you. So here are the 4 blush shades, starting from the purple, which is Electric Petal. We have Candy Quartz, that really cool baby pink. Then we have Peach Fuzz, which I don't know if I really consider that a blush shade. It is very light. I guess if you want a very light peachy blush, I would think of that more of like a mix-in color. And then the peach with a little bit more pigment is called Little by Little. So although I feel like this lighter peach shade is a bit weird, I am very excited about those first 2 cool tones, and even the peach tone, because I feel like it is suited for fair skin. And then let's go ahead and swatch this bottom row of contour shades. Very excited about these. Starting on the lightest shade over here, we have this shade called Extra Cream, which I don't think is really meant to be a contour shade. I would say it's more of a highlight shade. This next one is called Dune Up, which if you have olive skin, look at how much green is in this shade. It's a really beautiful like green heavy contour. And then we had Cloud Carve, which definitely has more neutral cool undertones. And then this one all the way on the side of my wrist, which is called Be the Light, again has more of those green tones, but it's offering more depth to the color. So I really want to play around with these and see just how many shades I can actually use on my face and how versatile they really are. These are a wax-based formula, so they really do benefit from being heated up. I always recommend like a brush for these kinds of formulas. Sponges just aren't able to blend as well. You can probably use that to smooth anything at the end, but you might even be able to tell since I swatched them, they are a bit more warmed up now. So we're gonna start with the contour side of the palette here. I'm gonna start with the Dune Up shade, which was that light contour with a lot of green tone in it. And then for my brush, I'm gonna use the LUXIE Small Contour contouring brush. I love this brush. I use it so much. I'm actually going to use this one to blend. Then to apply, I'm going to use something more precise. This is a Rose Ink #1 brush. But you could also use something like the TRIXIE P10. That's a really great one as well. I do already have my foundation and everything on, so I'm going to start with that right into the palette. Once that's on the brush, I am warming it up even more on the back of my hand just to make sure it's nice and pliable. So starting over here, I'm gonna do a little bit under my cheekbone. The shade just seems so nice. It really is such like a unique tone. It reminds me of the Danessa Myricks Vision Cream cover that I really love, that has that really like olive tone, but this is way more fair, which I love. And I'm also going to take this on the jawline. And then just to see what we're working with, let's go ahead and blend that out now. So I'm using the LUXIE small contouring brush, blending out beautifully. I think the test of a good contour is how easily it blends into your skin and whether or not you can tell that you have makeup on. And just right off the bat, I feel like it looks very natural. This formula isn't very pigmented and the shade is very light in pigment, so I feel like I'm just not even having to worry about it being too much or too harsh on my skin, because it blended out beautifully. Let's go ahead and do the top of my forehead here. Sorry, I don't know why my rosacea is flaring up like only on one side of my face right now. This definitely has a lot of green tones, which as someone with fair olive skin, I love. These olivey undertones really aren't something you see a lot in like mainstream contouring products. Usually they're very cool or neutral or warm tone. So if you feel like you've tried all of those and none of them even look remotely close to your natural shadow, you may have olive skin, and trying out a shade like this is really gonna mimic the natural green tones that you actually have in your skin and the natural shadows on your face. And then just finishing up doing this side of the contour with that same shade. I'm also going to use that same shade on the sides of my nose here and then blend that out with the small contouring brush. I didn't think I would ever say this, but I feel like that was almost, it's not too light, like it's very natural, but I feel like I could take it even more dramatic. Never an issue I have with contour, and it's a happy issue because so many colors just aren't light enough, but these are so light, especially this first shade that I'm using. If you're very fair, you're gonna love this. But I do want to deepen it up by going into Cloud Carve, which has a little bit more of that like neutral cool tone. So this is Cloud Carve compared to that lighter shade that has a lot more green tones. This has more of a cool undertone. I'm just taking that same brush and I just want to define even further. So I'm just putting that all in the same places I did earlier. With creams like this, by the way, you really do not have to worry about them drying down because they're wax-based. They actually get a little bit more workable as they really warm up to the skin. I think this shade is beautiful as well. I think it's just adding like a little bit more dimension. Like I can see the green tone here and then that like cool tone. Beautiful. So now's the point where you could take a sponge if you do want to smooth things out even more, but honestly I think they blended really nicely. I'm not having like any brush mark. I'm wearing the About Face foundation, by the way, which is a water-based foundation, I believe. Really haven't had any issues with it separating. I have tried these with the Fenty foundation as well and they seem to go nicely over everything. Next, taking the deepest contour shade, which also has those similar green tones to the first shade that we laid down, and I'm just going to deepen that up even further. It's so nice that you get an array of shades that you can all use together that work for fair skin, because you can continually add as much depth as you want. If you don't want as much, you can stick with a lighter shade. I just really wanted to show you that we can use all of these shades and it's not like a waste of money to have a face palette with shades that you can't even use. I'm definitely noticing a big difference now where I'm feeling and looking a lot more sculpted with that like blend of tones that we laid down. I think the green tones that they put in this contour palette was so smart. I really feel like they are super flattering. Now I'm actually going to go into this very light shade that I'm going to use to sort of just sculpt the lines a little bit. So right under the contour here, this is a super light. The tone of this is also amazing. It's really like a neutral olive tone. It doesn't have any warmth or like pink tones to it. It's awesome. And I'm using a LUXIE large concealer brush for this. It's a nice flat brush and you can get a really clean edge with it. And then I'm actually just going to use my sponge to press this in since it's basically already blended out with that flat concealer brush. Let me actually pop on some concealer before we move on to the blush. I'm using my HAUS Lab. What the heck is this called? Triclone Tech Concealer? Yes, I think something like that. You know, the one I use all the time. Next into these blush shades, I'm not sure I'm going to dip into these peach colors today, but I will be sure to feature them in a future video. But I do want to start with these two. Actually, maybe we'll mix a little bit of the peach in this cool pink. Let's go ahead and do that just to show you what that would end up looking like. You could also use this light shade here to lighten any of these colors, which is another really cool aspect of having a palette where all the formulas are the same. So here's what that shade is looking like with that light peach and the light baby pink mixed together. I think it's a really nice, pretty shade compared to just the baby pink on its own. This is a very cool toned baby pink, by the way. Next, I'm going to switch out to my other LUXIE small contouring brush. I do have two of these because I love them so much. And then taking that shade, I'm not going to apply the blush directly to my face. I don't really feel like I need to. Just gonna take it and work it into the brush, and then we will start stippling that right above the contour. It's so cool to like be able to use, like, I'm not using a lot of product. I feel like I'm just using a normal amount of product without having to worry that it's going to be too dark, especially with like blushes and bronzers and stuff. Like, I'm always so used to going so light-handed and really being like trepid around colors, but the fact that this is made for fair skin is amazing. Like, just the shade, beautiful. You could just wear this as a blush, but you know me, I love purple blushes, so of course we have to try the purple shade in here. I think I'm gonna use this one just straight up. So I'm actually gonna take a little bit of that on my fingers just for a more precise placement. I'm gonna do it more on the backs of my cheeks. Hopefully this will give us like a little bit of an ombre blush look. If you're scared of purple blush, I recommend this technique as well. It just gives you like a hint of color in a really flattering place. Look at how beautiful that is versus having it, you know, right on the apples of your cheeks. A little bit more subtle. I actually feel like we could maybe go into this peach as well. I wasn't sure how dark everything was going to show up. Taking a little bit of the peach, just like 2 dots, and maybe this will give us like a little bit of warmth, almost like a bronzer type of look. Now that everything is laid down, I'm ready to set the rest of my makeup and these creams. I would really recommend setting wax-based products like these unless you have very dry skin, because they are mixed usually with a lot of emollients. They blend really well, but you are going to want to set them down. But once they set down, they really don't move. So it's like you get the good blendability, but I would say make sure you're using a setting powder. I'm going to be using the Haley's Retouch powder. I'll use this both for my under eyes and the rest of my face. Now my under eyes set, taking a big fluffy brush and then just pressing this powder into all those creams. Now the only thing we're really missing is highlight. I'm gonna go into this Bobbi Brown highlighting powder in the shade Pink Glow. It's just a mini size. And then just using a fan brush to apply this. This is my rosacea right now, by the way. It's not actually the blush, but on this side you can see actually sort of how the true colors show up. Now for my lip combo, I'm going to use a little bit of the ColourPop Cool BFF lip liner, my favorite, you know. And then using the Urban Decay Vice Bond formula, this is the shade Love Ya Backtalk, which is a little bit of a deeper version of the OG Backtalk. So pretty though. We'll go ahead and link all my other makeup that I have on my face in the description box below, by the way. But just to give you like a little wrap up of my thoughts of the Made by Mitchell curve case in Lighter Than Light, I think this is such an inclusive and like great palette to have if you have fair skin. I really haven't seen one that's a face palette that actually has shades that I can use every single one of these shades and not feel like I'm wasting money buying a palette that one shade just isn't going to get used. So I really love that aspect of it. And this is like 30 bucks on sale on Beauty Bay, so it's really not a super expensive product either. You can just get so much use and versatility and usability out of it, and it totally doesn't have to be as in-depth as I did today. I just really wanted to show you how far you can take it. It's kind of like blowing my mind that I did do so much sculpting, and I feel like I have like a full glam on right now, but it looks so natural. Like if I put this much product of any other product, it would look so muddy and so makeup-y on me, but I feel like it actually like enhances me versus just looking like I have a lot of makeup on, you know? So I really love that about it. I think if you have fair skin, this is just such a nice palette to have in your collection. Whether you do a lot of makeup or not, it can really go any kind of way you want to take it. It's buildable. The only thing is if you're like really fragrance sensitive, it does have a slight scent to it. Like I mentioned, I don't notice it, like it doesn't like stay on my face, so I'm fine with it, but I always like to mention that for those of you who are. I will have this linked in the description below. Check it out on Beauty Bay. They are always having sales on them. Made by Mitchell also has these like new highlighters that are coming out soon, and they have a blue one. So this brand is a new brand that is on my radar. Thank you to the subscriber who recommended I try this out, and I think it's a great one to have if you have a skin tone similar to mine, especially fair olives. Those like green contours, I think you're gonna love this.